It all began with one single post. Not a warning, not a teaser, not even a whisper of a heads up. Just boom, chaos detonating across the internet like someone flipped a switch on the royal drama machine. Out of nowhere, a name long buried in Meghan Markle's past suddenly resurfaced, and people online practically split into two sides before breakfast. In that moment, Prince Harry's perfectly curated, candlelit California bubble went pop, but this time it wasn't the tabloids or palace insiders stirring trouble. Oh no, this explosion came from someone Meghan truly never expected to see. Again, Monarchy Pretty, her childhood best friend, the girl who used to stay over for sleepovers, whisper secrets on school nights, share diary entries, dream about the future all before royal titles, global fame, podcasts, airtime, and Netflix checks even existed. What made the internet go insane, it wasn't just the name resurfacing, it was what that name meant. Monarchy wasn't some school friend you barely remember. She was the friend who knew Meghan before Meghan became Meghan Markle. The friend who knew every messy detail, every insecurity, every ambition, every single version of the girl. Long before she walked into Buckingham Palace with a tiara ready glow. Before she became a Duchess with a global platform and a team of publicists polishing every word she says, Meghan Markle was just a California girl with a loud laugh, a dream, and a best friend who knew every side of her. And that's the truth people forget. Meghan didn't always have stylists and executives prepping her image for the cameras. Before all the glamour and royal storylines, she was just Meghan figuring life out like everyone else, laughing too loud at inside jokes, and leaning on the one person who saw her exactly as she was. Monarchy wasn't just another friend. She was the keeper of the earliest chapters of Meghan's life, the ones Meghan probably hoped everyone forgot. Their friendship wasn't one of those casual, teenage, hang out when convenient things. No, theirs was the kind of bond that grows roots. From innocent childhood memories, to awkward teenage phases, to early adult struggles when life feels heavy and real, Monarchy wasn't in Meghan's life, she was woven through it. She knew Meghan's habits, her dreams, her fears, her ambition, her heartbreaks, and everything in between. They grew up together, traveled together, dreamed together. Long before Meghan ever imagined herself standing beside a prince, she and Monarchy were standing outside Buckingham Palace as tourists, grinning through the gates. That one detail drives the internet crazy because it feels like foreshadowing written by the universe. Two girls posing outside the palace gates, never imagining what the future would bring. One of them unknowingly staring at the very life she would later step into. It almost feels unreal now. Two young girls smiling outside Buckingham Palace, and one would someday walk through those gates as royalty. That old photo used to look cute, innocent even. Now it feels eerie, like destiny was smirking in the background, watching it all unfold years before anyone knew what was coming. Because honestly, destiny has a wicked sense of humor. Because years later, that same girl from the photo entered the palace for real, not as a tourist, but as royalty. And somewhere along that journey, the friend who once stood beside her in that photo, gone. Not disappeared naturally, but cut out. No dramatic confrontation, no heartfelt goodbye, no slow, emotional drift, just silence. One day, Monarchy was there, woven into Meghan's life story. The next day, she was simply deleted. That's Meghan's pattern. Reinvent, rise, delete. I think people who knew both women say it was almost surgical. Meghan was entering a new phase of her life, and Monarchy didn't fit the image anymore. She knew too much. The early auditions, the hustle, the first marriage, the ambition that burned a little too bright. And for someone as image conscious as Meghan, that was dangerous. And that's exactly what people began whispering when the truth slowly resurfaced. Meghan wasn't just stepping into a new life, she was curating one. With every step up, she trimmed pieces of her past that didn't align with the polished, pristine Duchess persona she was constructing. Monarchy wasn't just a friend. She was a witness to everything Meghan once was before she became a brand. For years, Nanaki kept her distance. She didn't chase clout. She didn't post cryptic messages. She didn't go running to tabloids. She watched silently as Meghan transformed again and again, adored at first, then controversial, then defensive. Through every era, Nanaki stayed quiet. And maybe that silence was Meghan's biggest miscalculation. Because silence doesn't mean forgotten. Silence doesn't mean loyal. Silence doesn't mean safe. Silence just means waiting, and someone who lived your story can destroy it with a single truth. And when someone finally decides to speak, especially someone who was there before the fame, before the reinvention, before the palace gates, no PR team can erase that, no fan base can silence that, no statement can twist it, because it's not gossip. It's memory. And Nanaki's memories? They cracked Meghan's carefully curated image like glass. Nanaki had watched everything, the rise, the reinvention, the brand building, without ever stepping forward. Not a single dramatic interview, not a single attempt to insert herself into Meghan's spotlight. And maybe that's exactly why what she finally said hit so hard. Because when someone stays silent for years, their words land like thunder when they finally break it. People close to both women always hinted at the truth. Nanaki knew Meghan before the polish. She knew the hungry ambition, the relentless drive, the first marriage that Meghan scrubbed out of her biography, the Hollywood grind that wasn't glamorous at all. She knew the moments Meghan would rather pretend never happened, the unfiltered version, the version without PR edits. And that kind of knowledge, that's the one thing Meghan could never control. The moment Meghan convinced Harry to move to California, leaving behind the world he knew, the family ties, the structure, something shifted permanently. Former insiders kept saying it. Jessica Mulroney was gone the minute Meghan didn't need her connections anymore. Hollywood was the goal, and if someone couldn't bring her closer to that world, they were pushed off the stage. And Nanaki, she wasn't just from the past, she was the past. A living reminder of the girl Meghan used to be. Nanaki wasn't a liability because of drama. She was a liability because she knew the truth. So when she finally began speaking, it didn't come out like petty revenge. It came out like calm, clean, surgical honesty. No insults, no theatrics, just precise little details that sliced right through Meghan's fairy tale image. Like the story of Trevor Engelson, Meghan's first husband, receiving his wedding rings back in the mail. No conversation, no meeting, no explanation, just postage. Who ends a marriage like they're returning an Amazon package? That one detail went mega viral. Not because of the drama, but because of how cold it sounded. For someone who talks about kindness, empathy, compassion, that story hit people like ice water. Nanaki didn't exaggerate. She didn't perform. She didn't dramatize. She simply said what she had witnessed firsthand. And that made it 10 times more powerful. She described how Meghan had mastered the art of adapting her personality depending on who was watching. How she could be warm, charming, relatable one moment and then detached the next, shifting seamlessly into whatever version benefited her situation. Nanaki wasn't speaking like a jealous ex-friend. She spoke like someone who'd spent years understanding the pattern. And that pattern? Oh, it was unmistakable. Warmth, bond, opportunity. Then, distance. It's exactly what happened with her early Hollywood friends, colleagues, even some family members. When they no longer fit the brand or remembered too much of the unpolished Meghan, they were removed from the circle like expired contacts in a phone. Nanaki wasn't spared. Jessica Mulroney wasn't spared. Even her father wasn't spared. That's why what she said hit Prince Harry's story like a brick to the head. Because if Meghan could detach from her childhood best friend, the one who grew up with her, traveled with her, cried with her, then who exactly was immune? If she could cut out Jessica, a woman whose daughter she practically treated like her own niece, then who could possibly believe Harry would be any different? The pattern wasn't just whisper level anymore. It was visible from space. And then came the moment that blew the lid off the Meghan's fans, the most extreme ones, began claiming Nanaki Pretty didn't even exist. As if Meghan's own childhood photos, old social media memories, travel snapshots, and family pictures were conspiracies somehow manufactured to smear a Duchess. They zoomed into photos saying shadows were edited. They claimed her voice sounded too smooth and therefore must be AI. They even suggested someone hired actresses to play Nanaki for interviews. It was chaotic. It was delusional. It was the digital equivalent of people insisting the sky isn't blue. The problem? The more they denied her existence, the bigger the drama grew. Suddenly, everyone who never even heard the name Nanaki Pretty was Googling her. Screenshots surfaced, interview clips resurfaced, old photos went viral. Nanaki became a trending topic overnight, all because people tried to erase her. And then, when the madness reached its peak, Nanaki responded. Not with anger, not with threads, not with proof, not with screenshots. Just a single devastating line. According to some, I'm not me, so who's been living my memories? One sentence. And the internet collapsed. People stopped scrolling, stopped arguing, stopped denying. The sarcasm was icy, elegant, and heartbreaking all at once. It was the kind of line only someone deeply hurt but still dignified could write. And instantly, everything flipped. Suddenly, the people attacking her looked unhinged. The defenders sounded desperate. And the internet, for the first time in days, realized they'd been smearing a real woman. A woman who never even asked to be in the spotlight. That one line became a digital mic drop. Clipped, quoted, remixed, stitched into TikToks. Millions of views within hours. And then came the royal commentators. And that's when things turned nuclear. One by one, people with actual credibility stepped forward. Royal commentator after commentator confirmed they had met Nanaki, spoken to her, interviewed her, verified her story. They weren't guessing, they were stating it as fact. And overnight, the whole conspiracy theory shattered. The people who insisted she didn't exist suddenly deleted their posts. The ones who mocked her fell silent. The entire narrative turned against Meghan's defenders, who now looked like online zealots willing to erase a human being just to protect an image. Royal. Analysts said it openly, this wasn't fandom anymore, it was obsession. Cult-level loyalty that bordered on disturbing. And Nanaki? She stood there quietly, without screaming for validation, almost radiating more authenticity than any palace statement or PR campaign ever could. Her silence wasn't weakness, it was power. And now, with everything out in the open, the truth hangs in the air heavier than ever. Nanaki didn't need revenge, her honesty did all the damage on its own. Meghan's carefully built image is cracking, not because of tabloids, but because the one person who knew the real her finally spoke. And Harry? He's left standing in the shadow of a story he never saw coming. Because once your oldest friend steps forward with the receipts of your life, the fairy tale doesn't just wobble, it shatters.